Welcome everyone to the Blue Mountains International Hotel Management School's 30th anniversary special webinar event, the Global Perspective Series. My name is Vanessa Falzon and I am one of the industry consultants for the school. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I am talking to you from today, particularly the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of this place we now call Sydney. I would also like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. We are up to our 4th episode and wow, we've heard from some fantastic industry leaders across the globe already. We are carrying on our global series as we continue with our conversations with senior hoteliers from different countries, discussing how their destinations and hotels are preparing for post-COVID operations. The focus is very much on rebuilding and reskilling their workforce while considering how innovations successfully introduced over the last 20 months may become part of the new way of life. We will continue to hear firsthand why our career in hotel management is now more important and more rewarding than it's ever been. Before we get started and introducing our wonderful guest today, just a bit of housekeeping. We encourage you to ask as many questions as possible, and we ask that you please pop these into the Q&A box throughout the session, and we'll address them in the dedicated time at the end. Our guest today is no stranger to these interviews. Not only has he been very popular and very busy with well-known channels abroad such as Now Jakarta and Travel News Asia, he is also an avid supporter of the Blue Mountains International Hotel Management School Leadership Speaker Series. And what a pleasure it is to have him back again. Gaylord Lamy is a passionate advocate for the next generation of hospitality leaders. As the general manager of the new Langham in Jakarta, Gaylord is one of the industry's heavyweights, with his career taking him around the world to places like Hong Kong, Chicago, Sydney, and now Jakarta. His experience allows him to bring holistic insights into the world of hotel operations. And Mr. Lammy, or as you like to be called, Gaylord, welcome back and thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for the warm introduction. I must say, I love how we start introductions in Australia by recognizing the land and the elders, and I think it's so unique and so nice. So anyway, Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. We're going to kick the session off with your favorite question of what does a day in the life look like for Mr. Lammy? You and I both know there is no day the same. If you can manage to sum it up for us, and what do you love about the role and the industry that we love so much?
Well, look, actually, this question, I must say, you would have asked me this question a couple of years ago before what's happened in the world. You know, it would have been probably a regular answer, but I must say things have changed quite a bit. I think as an hotelier, we've had to reinvent ourselves, which actually the industry is not particularly known for. And so every day now, basically, it's all about trying to stay ahead and try to plan for as far as maybe 24, 48 hours, because this is how the industry has changed. It's no longer as easy to plan for months ahead coming. So, you know, coming to the hotel, my hotel only opened 6 weeks ago. So also my day at the office used to be different than what it is today. You know, during a pre-opening office, it was a lot more about planning and getting ready for the opening, where now it's about operating. And I'm glad to say operating a very busy hotel and food and beverage venues. So it's been amazing.
That's fantastic. Well, I think let's now turn to Indonesia and you know, the word that everyone loves to talk about, but no one really wants to, and the COVID disruption there. You know, being such a new property as well. So the hotel only being opened on the 9th of September is just absolutely crazy. I have we just wanted to talk about the changes that have happened in the country. But of course, first of all, as you can see, we love to share images of the property because it's just so stunning. For those students and everyone listening, 6 weeks on, and it is an absolutely stunning location, of course. So yourself, Gaylord, you actually worked on the project across 2020 from Sydney, which is also amazing, and shows the true change in our industry. I couldn't help but not put a photo of Tom's. As I know you love F&B as much as I do, and I had to put it up there. For those that are listening that aren't like, what's Tom's? What are you talking about, Vanessa? Tom Akers. This is his restaurant, one of his restaurants, and he's one of the most celebrated chefs in the UK, and is one of the youngest. Is the youngest British chef to ever be awarded 2 Michelin stars at the age of 26. So if I didn't put this up, it wouldn't be doing him justice. So I'll move away from F&B because I think you and I could probably be here for a couple of hours talking about.
You're hired, by the way. After this description, you can do it better than my sales team.
I'll let Simon know that I'm moving on. But we'll finish this interview first and see how I go. But moving to the graphs on the slide here, everyone. I can see from the first graph, Indonesians really are on the move again. And it seems that vaccination rates are growing so rapidly, case numbers are falling, and Indonesians are once again hitting the road and creating demand for the country. SDR recently reported that the more domestic parts of Bali, what they consider the regional Bali submarket, they saw a massive surge in travellers across August, which is great. And on an international scale, one which my fellow Aussies listening in today will love because it'll feel their Indonesian travel fix. We know Aussies love Indonesia. Is the recent announcement by the Indonesian tourism minister assuring Australians that Indonesia has taken all the right steps to welcome tourists back. And Indonesia really has turned a corner after a devastating outbreak which peaked in July with over 50,000 cases. So well done. And then for you in Jakarta, obviously Gaylord is where you're based. We can also see from the other graph that, many countries have kind of stayed the same across the pandemic. And, we can see from this that Indonesia fared relatively well during the pandemic. And when we caught up with you the other day, Gaylord, you mentioned that Jakarta is back on track after the lockdown ending, with the hotel in full swing. So exciting.
Yeah, that's right. Look, I must say, I think it's been like everywhere, it's been a roller coaster over a year, right? We've had a couple of different lockdowns. The last one was the heaviest, following the Delta variant entering the country. But Indonesia as a whole was lagging behind a little bit at first, but Jakarta has always been on top of it and got right on it with the vaccine, the various apps you needed to enter shopping malls, hotels and whatnot, restaurants. And then we actually opened, I don't think we could have opened the hotel at a better time because it was literally a couple of weeks after the lockdown, and I think people were getting the cabin fever syndrome and just wanted to get out, try restaurants, stay in hotels. And very happy to say that from literally day one, we've been at very high occupancy and high levels of business for Tom's, for the restaurant.
Oh, so good. And I'll just put in my leave just so I can go to Tom's personally. I've already picked my seat from that picture. But it's just fantastic. And the timing is absolutely perfect. Have you seen any shifts or changes in guests and employee preferences and their confidence of coming out and exploring hospitality now?
Yeah. Look, I think the interesting part was from an employee point of view, from a colleague's point of view, as we like to call them with Langham, there definitely were a lot of concerns, during the pandemic and lockdown, because being a pre-opening hotel, we didn't fall into the same category as an operating hotel. So we were more under construction. So we were considered essential work, and Look, you can open a hotel remotely. Unfortunately, you get to a stage where you have to be there physically. So there were growing concerns with the colleagues on coming to work, commuting, using public transportation and whatnot. But we obviously put a lot of measures in place within the facilities, such as the right social distancing measures, weekly antigen and PCR tests for colleagues. So we made sure that if there was a case internally, we could address it as soon as possible. And we had a lot of SOPs that were developed around the COVID situation. Then when we opened, obviously guests were the next wave of people who we had to address, right, when it comes to COVID. And COVID is definitely a high topic and a concern for people when they come to a hotel. They want to feel safe, not just secure, but safe, meaning they don't want it in your face that you have those plastic shields everywhere and triple masks and whatnot, but they want to feel like they can come in and nothing's going to happen to them. So we very fluidly, I should say, communicate our COVID protocols to our guests as well, whether you go on our website or social media channels. So we actually did a whole series of videos pre-opening to show the guests what we were putting in place, and our vaccination rate. So yeah.
How good is that? You mentioned the safe and secure thing, and in one of the interviews that I watched of you on YouTube, you made it very clear the difference between safe and secure, and no one thinks about the difference between the two, right?
Yeah, look, before I moved here, I didn't either, right? But I realized that the levels of security in Jakarta are very high because of previous incidents. So you cannot go into a hotel without a boom gate and metal detectors, right? Yeah. So, but if you arrive in a hotel and you have people with machine guns, security, you may feel secure, but do you really feel safe though? Probably not. So it's all about the sentiment rather than what you see.
Thank you very much for that insight. Very different here in Australia, but yeah, still those measures that we're just going to get used to now, right? So we can get people back. I'm going to jump over to yourself now, Gaylord, and there's a lot of people interested in hearing about this because of your shift from Sydney to Jakarta in the last year. What would you say are your own key learnings over the past 18 to 20 months, and how have they changed your leadership style, if they have at all?
Yeah. Well, look, again, I'm going to blame COVID again, right? But basically, this was, even though I've been in the industry for many, many years, I not only moved from an amazing, magical place in Sydney to Jakarta. And yes, Indonesia is a beautiful country and it has a lot to offer, but it was a big move, especially moving with a family. And I did it really for my career and wanting to open this amazing property, which is probably going to be the best hotel I will ever work for, because it's amazing. But I think being able to adapt, being able to, like I said earlier in the interview, reinvent myself has been the biggest learning curve and adaptation to my style. And again, but also being in a pre-opening office, it's very different, right? I love to be in the hotel, in the lobby, in a restaurant, talking to guests, and having no guest interaction. You really get to focus on your colleagues and how you build your team. So this was one. So adapting to the COVID regulations and how the world's working now, doing interviews for people for front office through Zoom instead of meeting in person, also really hard because I like to see people. I like to see how they behave. So I had to literally relearn how to interview someone for a role, whether it's a front office agent or a chef, right? And so that was one. Then moving into a different culture, different country, they work differently. There's a different language. There is a lot of language barrier as well. So adapting to the local culture was another big learning curve. I don't know if there's a lot of people with Indonesian background on the call, but I've learned there's two yeses in Indonesia. There's a yes that means no, and the yes that means yes. And now I can distinctively say which one is which saves me a lot of time and trouble. But yeah, small things like this.
We have comments from
I just saw that. Don't be sorry. It's actually I've learned why. It's because people don't like to give you bad news, and I kind of like that. It feels good, but it's just one thing to learn for everyone is, sometimes by giving the bad news, you save a lot of time and money and energy. So never be afraid to tell the bad news.
Oh my gosh, what a difference in culture from Sydney, where they'll tell you even if you haven't asked.
In Sydney, I remember every time coming to my office would only be for bad news. I don't think I ever got the good news.
Oh gosh, it's so funny. Oh wow, how the worlds apart that that Jakarta and Sydney are. But
Yes.
thank you for being so candid with us as well. Lovely to hear how you've had to change and adapt yourself, and not only your family have had to do that as well. So, moving back to Jakarta and the Langham, which is the group that you've been with for so long. And thinking about the future with the market, because there's obviously a lot of enthusiasm and optimism around the market where you are. Do you see that there's any or is there any developments or initiatives that you can share with us about the Langham as a group? I mean, obviously, within what you can say in this realm.
Yeah, of course. Well, look, I mean, in terms of development, actually, you'd be happy to know, you probably already know, but we have the Langham Gold Coast that's going to open next year. Yes. So I think for Australia, that's a big move, and for Langham too. And it's good to see because it just shows how well our brand has done in Australia. Yeah. But Jakarta is our first Southeast Asia property. I would imagine that with how well it's doing and how well it will continue to do, confidently that there will be a lot more development in this part of the world. Yeah. We've also announced officially Venice in Italy. We have a little bit of presence in Munich as well, in Germany now, with the Langham residences. And of course, Langham London, which has been there for a long time. But for Europe, I think our next big move, which is not announced yet, but I know they're looking very much into, is Paris, and potentially other parts of Germany. So is there. And then in the US, at the moment, it's a little bit of a standstill until more comes.
Yeah, I feel like the US is, it's such a different market. And I just finished up working with IHG as well before joining Torrens. And yeah, the US market is fared very differently for the rest of the world with during the pandemic, I found. So, but exciting times for us in Australia, and
that hotel is going to be another beautiful one, and what a location, straight on the beach, on the Gold Coast in Surfers Paradise. So,
well, you could get that Manly fix again, and you could.
I know. It's been teasing me.
I think staying in Jakarta for a while, they'll need you. That's for sure. It's
right.
Going back to COVID and how it's changed the world that we live in, and hospitality, which is the industry that you love so much. What are some of the key innovations that you've seen in the industry, and do you think that they are here to stay? Do you think some are going to, some are just going to disappear or slowly phase out?
Well, there is one thing that I think is going to be in place for quite some time, but I believe all of us look very much forward to see it disappear, are the masks, right? And obviously, we have different technology or grade of masks that we use. So, for here in Jakarta, we actually use those K95 masks that are supposed to be some of the top of the line, and then we also provide a cover mask on top of it. So all the colleagues not only look all the same, but also have double protection. Then in our housekeeping, we use all those electrostatic guns when cleaning the rooms. So it really ensures the proper cleanliness and that any potential cases wouldn't be transmittable there. We also have different SOPs as far as how long a room should be unoccupied between a checkout and a check-in. We use obviously the automatic temperature checkpoints at the doors of the hotel with face recognition as well. So there's a lot of technology there. I think the way it looks here in Jakarta, Southeast Asia, it's going to be here for a long time. I don't see that going away too soon. I'm not sure about other parts of the world because I haven't really seen a lot of it. But I would imagine, yes, because since the investment has been made and it's a safety layer, I don't see that going away anytime soon.
Yeah, so interesting. Adjusting SOPs for COVID. You would just never think to have SOPs for hygiene measures. I mean, we already have hygiene measures in place in hotels, but just such an impact to operations and the smoothness of that.
I think there's a bit of silver lining there, to be honest. I think hotels. I mean, obviously, Langham. I don't claim Langham. I don't put Langham as in this part, but I know some hotels in the world, can certainly improve cleanliness, right, and their hygiene protocols. So I think it's also helping the industry to some level to really make sure that our rooms are clean, our restaurants are also well taken care of, and basically guests are even more safe now, right?
Yeah, it definitely makes me happy. Someone that is very big on cleanliness. So
Yes.
I'm very happy to stay back in hotels. We're going to turn to our stakeholders, our students now, and we've got quite a number of students living back home in Indonesia and studying with us. Just under 50, and then we've got around 15 in Jakarta alone, which is fantastic. And my colleague and I, Gareth, who you know very well, have been engaging in dialogue with our students around joining the brand that they'd like to grow with globally, due to Australian border closures, and really using the time that they have back home to gain that work experience. Gaylord, what would you say to those students about working or completing their industry placement back home? Would you agree that this is the right decision for them, given the situation?
Yeah, I think it's a very great place to start. I think learning the industry within your own culture and within your own backyard really is the best way to do it, because then you'll understand the foundation even better. With that said, and I did tell you during our original calls, right?
Yes.
I personally got into the industry because I wanted to travel the world, and obviously I seized that opportunity because for me to become a better hotelier, I need to understand how, especially if you're going to work in an international hotel chain, right? Understanding other cultures worldwide is key. So it definitely a benefit. Speaking other languages is a big benefit as well. But I started at home back in France for many years before I ventured out, and it was the best learning school. Even today, I'm being recognized, or at least differentiated, because of being able to learn at home.
Yeah, I really appreciate your openness with that as well. And it is funny that you mentioned getting that experience back home, because your L&D manager, Mr. Muhammad Daud, has been with us this week, and hot off the press, we've got fantastic internship opportunities with your hotel starting in January 2022. And I'm telling you, we've had some fantastic applications already from students. And I know they're on today. A few have been making comments, apologising for the Indonesian language. But I know they're taking notes and really taking away what you're talking about today to really help them with their research with the hotel. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a big fan. I mean, in Sydney or in Jakarta, every time we've had people from the mountains, I have many success stories of people who worked, who come from that school. So
yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I know you've been an avid supporter, and the Langham Sydney still have that really good relationship with us. I think because of your relationship with the school. Let's go to one last question with our Q&A session now, and then we'll turn to the audience for questions. I can already see the Q&A box, increasing in number.
Yeah.
So speaking of hospitality, and you've had such a long career in hospitality already, there's often a misconception that hospitality is just something that you do, when you're passing by, and it's just about cafes and restaurants and whatever. Can you share with us why you believe hotel or hospitality management or hotel management is really more than this, and it's so much more exciting than people perceive it to be?
Yeah, of course. Look, I've been getting these comments, I think, since the very beginning when I entered into the industry, and I love the question because I think people couldn't be more wrong, actually. and I tell you why, because if you want to do this job, it doesn't matter whether you're GM or non-management or management in the industry. If you don't love what you do, you will have a miserable time. And so I strongly advise that if you're going to get in the industry, make sure you have a love and passion for it. And it's easy. It's an easy industry to love. I mean, you get to deal with people, and if you think about it, people who stay in your hotel, they're here to celebrate, or they go to your restaurant, they're here to celebrate. So you basically have people entering your doors over 90, 95, 99% of the time, and they're in a happy mood. And so you get to deal with happy people. If they leave in a different mood, then it's because something went wrong. But we obviously, as we learn and we know what we do, we make sure that doesn't happen. But I think that's why it's such a career, and it's such a pleasure to work in this industry.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I also love this question. I love asking it, I love answering it, and I love proving people wrong. So I know you do as well in the right way. But that was absolutely sensational. Thank you for standing firm with all the questions that I've been asking you, and some hairy ones there, of course. So I'd love to turn to the Q&A part of our session today, and we've got some questions from the audience, which is fantastic. So we have a question back to the SOPs and the cleanliness that you were talking about earlier, and this is one of our staff members in Melbourne, one of our academic members. She's asked, how do you communicate room cleanliness to guests to make them feel secure? How do you do that communication side?
So there's a number of ways of doing that. Obviously, there's a pre-arrival way of doing it. We advertise on our website, like I said, or during the reservation process about our cleaning procedures and some of the new technology we use, of course, right? But nowadays, you stay in hotels too, and a lot of the time, there's even a seal on the door to show you that no one's entered the room since it was clean. There's a seal on the phone. Everything that's the touch point, basically, there's a way for you to remind the guest how this was clean and disinfected. So we do that. We also do a lot less, in luxury hotels. They used to love to do throw pillows and decorative blankets and all that. I can tell you, if you look now in a luxury hotel, it's a white bed sheets and that's it, because again, we try to avoid things that could be cross-contaminated or multiple use, basically.
I remember that from when my pre-opening work that I was doing with IHG, and it's just scrap the throw pillows, scrap the bed throws. It's just the new world that we live in, isn't it?
Exactly.
Turning to Jakarta and Indonesia, seeing as you've been there now almost a year, as you mentioned, you've got to do your visa renewal soon. We have a question about what makes Jakarta or Indonesia itself such a desirable location to work in, particularly those who are really aspiring in hospitality.
Well, for a few reasons, but one of the big ones is, I think Indonesia, it's still a country in development, but Jakarta is really becoming a metropolis, right? And although if you come to Indonesia, you probably think Bali rather than Jakarta, I strongly recommend you do a stopover in Jakarta because it's got a lot to offer. I think the people here, the locals, really know luxury, actually. They have very high expectations for that reason. But also, I think it's really the people that make the difference. I mean, the service levels that you can reach in Jakarta are quite high just because of the dedication of people here and the love for the industry, but also the love for learning that they have. So I do think that Jakarta particularly is a very good reason for it, but Indonesia as a country has got a lot of other destinations too. Yeah.
Yeah, and just that hospitality that is just ingrained in the culture, right? To be able to learn those skills and from Indonesians, that would be fantastic.
Right.
You as a European and as an Aussie, going over to Asia, the service is so different. It's it's I'm not going to say it's 10 times better, but it kind of is. It's just
well, it's look, to be fair, we are able to have a lot more people here, right? Because of costs. Let's face it, and so it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, let's not talk about costs in Australia, shall we, Gaylord?
No.
We've got a really good question about the working environment, the culture at the Langham. I'm interested to learn about that one too. What's the culture like at the Langham, Jakarta?
I love that question too.
Love it.
If you ever interview with me for any position, I will always ask you one question, and the question is, what does it mean for you to take initiative? And I have of course I have expectations to answer in the answer, and that answer should be as simple as saying, basically, we expect you to do the right thing, but without being told. And that's what the culture is at Langham. Whether you're in Jakarta, in Pasadena, LA, Boston, London, we really try to drive that culture of want our colleagues to take initiative. And when you're a guest, you just want to be taken care of by the person you talk to. You don't want to be escalated to management or supervisors all the time. And so here we just empower people to take initiative and go ahead and do whatever they think is the right thing to do to turn around a situation or even to make it even better. And of course, to support that, we have a mission statement and global vision and values that we communicate during orientation. But it comes down to taking initiative and getting that or creating that emotional connection with guests and colleagues.
Yeah, I think it's really important is that empowerment piece. And just so guests can actually see that the staff are taking the initiative as you mentioned, right? So it's absolutely fitting and a great segue to my next question, which is all about initiative. One of my colleagues, Min, who's our senior success coach, he remembers you from Sydney Langham days. You were on the dining floor. You were serving customers on a Saturday night dinner shift. You were the general manager for those that are listening, and it's just incredible to see. You're taking that initiative to do that. Not how often do you do this, but how valuable do you think this is as your general manager leadership style?
Well, look, obviously you have to be able to work in a property that allows you to do this. In Sydney, it was perfect because it's a 98-room hotel. It's almost that city resort, and you want to be you have to be, as a GM, you have to be the face of the hotel, and there's no other way to do that than being in there with the guests, with the staff, with the colleagues, and helping out. I've learned this from my early days when I was an intern at the Langham in Boston back in 2001. On New Year's Eve, I always remember my general manager of a 316-room hotel coming into the dish room, taking his jacket off, rolling up his sleeves, and cleaning dishes. And to me, I'm like, okay, well, that's what it takes. And I've always done that since then, or since I've become management, really. Here in Jakarta, I try to do it also as much as I can. The difference in culture is they don't let you do it.
Yeah.
Every time I check to take a plate off the table, I have 5 people taking it away from me.
Oh.
And but it goes a long way. You know, I think to me, it's about showing the support. You know.
How fantastic! I love it. I absolutely.
So
love
I still do it. I still do it. My favorite thing is bartending, and if you talk to any of the bartenders here, they'll tell you that sometimes I push them around in the bar, and I make a few drinks for guests. I love it.
Oh, that is so good. It's so good to see and to know that general managers are out there like yourself doing such things. Very lucky those Langham Jakarta staff and whoever gets you next. And you're probably your second favorite question, and it's our last question, which is it's come through from one of our students, is 3 pieces of advice that you would offer the students out there that are, you know, paving their way into and growing their careers. 3 pieces of advice that you could offer us today, Gaylord.
I'll start with the biggest one. Always take care of your colleagues. Doesn't matter whether you're same level, below level, upper level. Just always take care of your colleagues. Treat them with respect and treat them as if they were guests. You know, because obviously people put on a show when they have guests in front of them. Well, you should do the same with colleagues and treat them as equal, or if not better than you would treat a guest, because it will deliver the results at the end of the day. And then another one would be always work hard. I know at times it feels that the reward is not always there, but it always pays off in the long term. And then third, come to work every day with the want to do better than you did the day before. You know, one of our values with Langham is better every day. We use it as a hashtag on social media and whatnot, but it literally means that when you leave work, just ask yourself what didn't go 100% well today, and before you come back to work the next day, try to do better at it. Whether it's small or big, it always makes a difference.
Wow, that's a few comments coming through about the mantra. That's very, very good and inspiring for and my colleagues, and not to mention the students. Well, we've taken up 40 minutes of your time, and it has just flown by. Thank you so much. That's a lot of information for us to digest. Those Indonesian students that have applied for Langham Jakarta are busily, you know, taking notes and remembering all of this. But yeah, we really thank you again for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our 4th Global Perspective series session. Can't believe how fast it's going. Our next session, so in 2 weeks' time on the 10th of November, we have Mark Foxwell, who is the General Manager of Hyatt on the Bund, Shanghai. So we're still staying in Asia, just going to a different side. Mark himself is a 25-year veteran who brings an incredible wealth of strategic insight into the hospitality industry across Asia Pacific. So please don't forget to register. We've got the link in the chat box now for you, just so you can register for that. Thank you again, and we wish everyone a lovely rest of the day. For Gaylord, good luck with the rest of the year for Langham Jakarta, and I'm sure that festive season is going to be nice and busy.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure, and I hope to be in touch soon.
Thank you so much.